Hello there, guys. This is Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and today I am reviewing The Sinner and the Saint by Kevin Birmingham, Dostoevsky and the Gentleman Murderer Who Inspired a Masterpiece. This is about the writing of Crime and Punishment. It's a very engaging history, slash biography, slash book of literary criticism about Dostoevsky. And it's interesting because a lot of the biography I already knew, and a lot of the history I really loved learning about, like of St. Petersburgh. The history of St. Petersburgh I did not know. And then a lot of the literary criticism I disagreed with, or at least the main thrust of the literary criticism. Some of the other literary criticism that he made, actually, I thought was very smart and true. But anyways, it's a complex book for me. I'm going to dig into those gnarls about this book. It's very engaging, like I said. We learn quite a lot about Dostoevsky's life leading up to his writing of Crime and Punishment, almost all of which I was already familiar with from the biography A Writer in His Time by Joseph Frank, which is the one that I would recommend as probably more authoritative than this one. But the nice thing about this one is it's on audiobook, so you can just listen to it. If you're an audiobook listener like I am, you can breeze through this. Like, it's easy to listen to on audiobook. It's so engaging. Listen to this quote. It's amazing. Petersburgh is built on an archipelago at the mouth of the Neva River. It is a horrible place for a city. Pontoon bridges and rowboats linked the municipal islands. When the river's branches froze, and they were frozen for nearly half the year, the bridges were removed. Petersburgers marked pathways across the ice with lanterns and scattered hay, and they covered the thinner spots with planks. In springtime, the snowmelt turned the streets to mud. In summer and fall, the city was so waterlogged that puddled side streets harbored swamp grass, ducks, and algae. Petersburgh was indeed built on an Indo-Germanic swamp, as Dostoevsky called it, and the swamp was poised to take it all back. The Neva flooded annually. During the flood of 1824, the river rose 13 feet in a matter of hours, sending furniture, coffins, and carriages through the squares. Intense. He also was talking about how they had to put these gigantic oak poles into the mud of the city in order to hold their buildings up. So basically, it was a whole city living on stilts in the mud. Not maybe a great idea to build a city there. And also, a lot of illnesses that are like waterborne were just endemic. So you get some details like that about the city, and that's really what I loved about this. And it was so easy to listen to, like I said. This could be used as a biography if you just want to get familiar with Dostoevsky, but I would say don't read it before you read Crime and Punishment, because there's a lot of spoilers for Crime and Punishment, which, of course, I don't think you can really ruin Crime and Punishment, even if you know what's happening. Like, the second time I read it, I probably enjoyed it even more. So consider that before starting it. His very specific interpretation of Crime and Punishment that I personally did not agree with is that Dostoevsky was not actually promoting any ideas in Crime and Punishment. And I'm not sure if he was saying, like, in any of his work, Dostoevsky has no ideas or what. But he was saying the only idea really present in this book is the danger of ideas, how they mix people up and confuse people, and we can't handle the amount of ideas that get thrown at us regularly, which is actually something I agree with. It's why we have trouble handling the news and Twitter and all this stuff. It's like a lot of information to take in, a lot of which might not actually affect your world too much. I'm not saying I disagree with that concept, but I don't think that that's the main thing that Dostoevsky was arguing in his works. The scene with Radia and Sonia when she reads him from the Gospel of Luke, and then the ending in the epilogue, I cannot see how he could possibly not be trying to communicate something to us with those scenes. So I'm trying not to spoil Crime and Punishment here, but if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. If I'm handing this book over to new readers, I wouldn't necessarily want them to jump in with those thoughts in mind about Crime and Punishment, that, oh, he's not actually saying anything here. I would want them to make up their mind, read it first, and then come to this book and see what he says. But, you know, a biography, that's not always going to happen with a biography reader. With that said, I felt like the novel was a little bit unfocused, a little bit unconvincing, especially about his thesis. He would just sometimes throw it in there. It wasn't convincing to me, but I have very strong opinions about Dostoevsky. And he also, like, summarized great swaths of the novel, which was like, why? I could just go and read it myself, and, like, quoted parts of it. I don't know. So I had some problems with it. But I really do love how he explored the character of Dostoevsky. He really explored Dostoevsky's flaws in particular, which I actually love, because I love Dostoevsky's flaws. It's what makes him so empathetic to people who are basically screw-ups. Like, in his novels, he has all of his characters are like, so many of them are screw-ups, just like all of us, right? And he just has so much empathy for them. And I think if he didn't have his own very terrible flaws, then he probably wouldn't empathize with people so much. Like, we learn about his gambling addiction, we learn about his hopeless love affairs, oh, and his epilepsy, how vulnerable that made him. Like, that's not a flaw, but he was very vulnerable because of it, especially during that day and time. Like, he just had really severe fits of epilepsy that affected him strongly and scared everybody around him. And another thing that I loved about this book was learning about Dostoevsky's favorite authors. Like, he mentions loving Jane Eyre, like a whole bunch. He loves Les Mis by Victor Hugo. He loves Hoffman, E.T.A. Hoffman, who I really love. And Goethe, which I'm excited about because I'm going to be reading Goethe's Faust very soon here. And sometimes, like I said, he does actually have good insight into the creation of Crime and Punishment and why Dostoevsky maybe makes certain decisions. So listen to this quote. Dostoevsky's painstaking narration of the brutal crime was crucial to the novel's philosophical goals. The vivid details dispel Raskolnikov's strange, unfinished ideas floating in the air. Any reader who believes we should weigh pleasures against pains, or who thinks that murdering a useless person is justifiable if it produces a mountain of useful deeds, would reconsider once the act is no longer a matter of entries in a ledger, once we see its impact on fully fleshed human beings. A good novel is an excellent rebuttal to a vague theory. Even though I had some mixed feelings about this book, I also enjoyed parts of it quite a bit, so I'm going to give it a 70% out of 100%, and I hope this makes you take a look at the book. I think it might be worth a read. I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Leave your comments down below, what you think about Dostoevsky or Crime and Punishment or this book or anything, really. Bye-bye.